Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Meet the Candidates. I'm your host, Jonathan Grabowski. We are in 2021 spring local election season and we're currently going through all the contested races. And so joining me today is a candidate for the Board of Selectmen. It's Jim Kilcoyne. How are you, Jim?
I'm great, thanks for inviting me.
So we're going to talk about a lot of different things here, like why you're running, some things that you want to work on. But first off, who is Jim Kilcoyne?
So who's Jim Kilcoyne? So first of all, I'm the proud father of my daughter, Angelina. I grew up in Scituate. My mom was a nursery school teacher. My dad was a clerk magistrate over in Hingham District Court. For my career, I worked in the medical device industry my entire life. The last 30 years I was in cardiovascular surgery. I retired running 2 divisions with international responsibility for Canada, and my total portfolio book was around $40 to $45 million. Educationally, I went to the University of Massachusetts. I graduated with honors with a degree in science, business, economics, and then for the last 6 years I've volunteered on the Marshfield Conservation Commission as a citizen volunteer.
So talk about some of that community involvement. You're currently the chair of the Conservation Commission.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so most recently I have spent some time at the Marshfield Fairgrounds, and I found that to be a phenomenal experience. Everyone's kind of happy, they're going through, they're getting their shots. You're really just directing traffic, but you come away feeling really with a nice feeling that you're doing something for the town and for the people. Mm-hmm. But for the last 6 years, I've invested a lot of time and energy on the Marshfield Conservation. I joined, as I said, 6 years ago. 3 years ago, I was elected by my peers to be the chairman of the commission. And I probably donated as a citizen volunteer about 10 to 15 hours a week for the last 6 years in service to the town.
So what made you decide to run for conservation or join the Conservation Commission?
Join the Conservation Commission. So, like many people in Marshfield, being on the Conservation Commission, we are Marshfield. So there are a tremendous amount of jurisdictional areas, right, wetlands and things like that. So my project had those as well. And through the project, I just found it a really fascinating way to do things and protecting the environment, but still being able to achieve private property right actions that you want for your own property. And back then, the administrator was Jay Winnemer. Mm-hmm. And during the process, we spent a lot of time together, and he kept on recruiting me to become on the commission. I was traveling quite a bit, so I didn't for a while, but I finally joined, and it's been a really, really rewarding experience.
Any particular accomplishments that stand out?
Oh, since I've been chair?
Yeah, or since your time on the board?
Well, one that's really maybe not phenomenal, but it is really interesting is we passed a change to the agricultural policy of the town early on when I was chair. And the goal was to get Mounce's Meadow, which hasn't been farmed in almost a decade, to be farmed again. So it took some changes in the agricultural policy, but I'm proud to say they are clearing the ground. They're getting rid of all the old plastic up there. Hopefully this season or next season we will have acres of fresh vegetables coming out of Marshfield again for Marshfield residents. One of the key things is I don't know a lot of people realize that Marshfield is in the top 10 busiest conservation commissions in the state. And we have 2 people on the Marshfield Conservation. That's separate from the commissioners.
Right.
Take a peer town such as Duxbury. Duxbury is a little busier than us. They might be the top 5%, but they have 5 people on the conservation. We have 2, so we weren't serving the people of the town well. We were overtaxed and not being responsive as we needed to, so I worked with the selectmen, worked with the administrator, and I worked with the financial officer, Patrick, and I explained what the challenges were and how we weren't meeting for the citizens. And I'm very happy to say that one of the biggest things we got is we have a full-time equivalent added just a month ago now.
Wow, that's great.
Additionally, the town has bylaws that the town people voted in, and within those are regulations. Most people didn't realize it, but the commission was working under regulations from 1990. So can you imagine your phone from 30 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
So the commission was not able to serve the citizens right because the regulations didn't represent what was going on in the town currently. So it was a 3-year effort by 4 of us. I was part of the commissioner team on that. Mr. Finn, a paralegal, was tremendous help. We worked with town council, and we passed about 5 or 6 weeks ago the first update of our regulations so we could be more responsive to people in 30 years.
Great. So let's talk about why you're here today. So why have you decided to run for select board?
Well, those types of things are always personal decisions, right? In my career, I was on the road. So I was on the road 35 out of 52 weeks a year. And quite frankly, I think it's very similar to a lot of people in town, whether it's work or family demands or children or aging parents. There's just a lot going on in life in general. And quite frankly, I'm not particularly necessarily saying I'm proud of it, but I just wasn't able to dedicate the time I wanted to be involved in the town or volunteering in the town. But during those 35 years, someone did, right? And someone took care of the town. And now that I'm retired, I have the knowledge, the energy, and the expertise to help the town. So I just feel it's my turn to step up.
Great. So we like to do a little Civics 101 with candidates that come in. So what's the role of the select board?
The role of the select board is really easy. So you're the executives of the town. It's a 3-member board. And your primary responsibility, among other things, there's a lot of things that come in front of the selectmen, but your primary responsibility is financial oversight of the budget of the town. That's the real driver and the thing you must pay most attention to.
Okay. So what's something you might be able to take from your time on conservation and bring it to the select board?
So that's interesting. My business experience made me a better conservation commissioner because my business experience, I learned that it's all about people and you have to understand other people's perspectives, learn from their perspectives, compromise if necessary, but always stay true to what you think is right or wrong. So I will take that business experience, went to the Concom, put the two of those together, right, and use it on the select board. Additionally, my experience in the Conservation Commission allowed me, so in the business side, you always had these different departments.
Right.
Conservation is the same way. You had to work with different departments. You had Board of Health, you had Building Engineering. So I got to know and work with those people. So that I have that experience, I'll be able to be ready day one because I already know how to work with those people in the town.
Mm-hmm. So what's something that the town does well? What's something that you think we might be able to improve upon?
Yeah, so what the town does well is, I don't know if you remember 7 years or so ago,
Yes.
That we were about $1 million in debt. To borrow money cost us a fortune. So over the last 6 years, the selectmen, Chief Financial Officer, Patrick, have all done a fantastic job, and we now are in great financial shape. As a matter of fact, the last budget that we did, bond issue, I'm sorry, the bond rate, because we're in such good shape, was lower than inflation. And anyone wants to buy a house with an interest rate lower than the inflation rate. Right. So we need to continue doing that. And as part of the selectmen, I would want to do that. As far as doing something different, I rely on my business thoughts again. So I want to increase the experience of town hall. All right. So when you were a business person, you had all these different silos: engineering, marketing, finance. It's the same. People say that there's a difference between public and private. And my experience in 6 years working in the town, there isn't. You're really just dealing with people. And that's the important part. So what I want to do is I'd like to have, through the administrator, each of the major commissioners and boards and departments set their goals for the year. It's a pretty basic thing. What do you need to accomplish this year? Then benchmark it during the course of the year. And at the end of the year, what do? You look at, did you achieve them or not? That bubbles up to the selectmen, and they're able to look at, are all the boards and commissions congruent to where the townspeople want to take the town? Mm-hmm. And if there's obstacles that they can't achieve that, then that would be my role to help them achieve it.
Right. So in your mind, what's the biggest challenge the town faces, and how would you approach it as a member of the board?
So sadly, each person when they come into a position faces the challenge of the day. It's not the challenge you necessarily want. So the challenge of the day, unfortunately, is COVID, and I know everyone's tired of hearing it, so am I.
Right.
But it is. So the number one thing we need to do is make sure that the citizens of our town, all of them that want to get vaccinated, can quickly and safely get vaccinated. The second thing that we need to do is we need to work with our sister board, school committee, to make sure we can help them in any way to get our students back safely to school full time. And then the third, of course, is our business side. You know, they've been devastated. And so anything we can do to help the businesses open as quickly as possible so we can shop and dine and go out to the restaurant and get jobs back to Marshfield. So those are the issues, I believe.
So on your website, you talk about making Marshfield a better place to live, work, and play. Talk about what that means.
So why does someone want to come, a business or a person, come to Marshfield? Right? So they look at the infrastructure. Are the police stations in good shape? Are your sports fields in good shape? Are your schools in good shape? So that's an important part of why people come here. So the live part, right now it's COVID, obviously. We have to make sure that our students are back to school safely and we get everyone vaccinated. The work side is we have to provide an environment where people want to work and shop locally, providing jobs for our citizens, and also it helps us financially. And then the play side, the play is real easy. What separates us from, say, great other sister towns like Hanover or Pembroke, right? We have 4 rivers, 6 miles of barrier beaches, acres and acres of marshes, and we have some of the largest amount of forested areas versus any other town in the state. So that's the play side.
Okay, so another thing that's a priority of yours is economic development. You want to improve the experience of downtown Brant Rock as well as investing in the town pier. How do you envision doing those improvements?
Right, so downtown pier and Brant Rock. So I'll do downtown. So I want to work to help improve the experience of downtown, similar to like Town Hall. Okay. So that area, fortunately, is actually town-owned, the Library Plaza. Over on the other side, it's privately owned.
Right.
So there is a current project in front of the Selectmen and in Town Hall, working with the Chamber of Commerce to change that whole feel.
So Webster Walkability Project.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll give you an example, and I think everyone can understand this. I went down with my daughter to get to Dairy Queen, and we have a great ice cream, right? So I come out and I just want to sit in a park bench with a little shade over it, right? And enjoy our ice cream, just spend some time with my daughter. Well, there wasn't any place, so we had to sit in the car and eat our ice creams. So we want downtown not to be a place someone comes, gets out of the car, shops, and goes home. So we want to make it a place where they want to come and go to, take that nature walk around, then they sit back, maybe go get a cup of coffee, and then maybe they even say, let's have lunch. So increase that whole feel there.
Okay.
When you talk about Brant Rock, I don't know if you're aware, but I would encourage everybody to go to the Marshfield Town website. So BU Urban Studies is in the process of looking at the challenges of Brant Rock. Everyone that knows Brant Rock, it is such a cool area. We recently had a movie, maybe 1 or 2 movies made there, right? It's very unique, but it's also environmentally challenged because nor'easters come over this way and then it floods from Green Harbor that way. Everybody knows about the flooding of that area. So I would encourage everyone to go to that site and participate in that site so we can get more solutions and ideas on how to solve and help Brant Rock. The dock is an infrastructure project that definitely needs to be done. Most people don't know this, but the bulkhead for the dock was put in the year I was born. So that's a while ago.
Okay.
So it's literally rotting and rusting out, and it's just falling into the harbor. The floats were redone like 20 years ago, and they're also falling apart. So what we need to do there is we have competition for the same space, right? So you have the commercial lobstermen and you have your recreational boaters. And it was designed a long time ago. So the idea there is you separate the commercial, because remember, every one of those commercial fishermen is an independent businessman in this town, and we want to support our business people. So we don't want to have someone come in with a $10,000 fish and not be able to get to the dock. And conversely, if you have a family of 4 and you can finally get everyone down into the car so you can launch your little boat down there, that you have a place to park and tie up the boat. 2 other quick things on it. They're going to move where the emergency response boats are, that will change the response time for 2 to 3 minutes. Now, it doesn't sound like much, but if you're drowning, 3 minutes can be between life and death. And the final thing helps Brant Rock. So they're going to put transient boating in. So you have boaters that come from out of town. They'll go into the docks, right? And then that evening, they'll walk over to Brant Rock and they'll have a beverage or they'll enjoy our fine restaurants.
Going off the topic of economic development, what type of businesses should we be looking to attract?
Yeah, so that's interesting. It depends on where you are in the town. We have different business zones, right? And each business zone has their own unique environment. Let's just say downtown. Downtown, we just talked about the Library Plaza project. That's probably going to be more food, service, and things like that. Let's look at, say, Enterprise. Enterprise Park has its own challenges. In there was a poll that the town did, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. And they asked the citizens, what do you want in this area? And they basically wanted very, very light industry, or they really wanted to have like medical buildings or professional business buildings. Unfortunately, the topography in that area, there's a lot of hills. So I think another option might be able to mix as well with some residential development in that area.
Okay, so town infrastructure. Town's done a lot of projects, or are currently working on a lot of projects, you know, over the past few years. So, as a member of the select board, how would you work to, you know, maintain our town buildings, but also make sure we're not burdening the residents with, you know, overrides and increased, you know, bills on their taxes?
Right. So, we're limited in Massachusetts with Prop 2.5. The only way you can override Prop 2.5 is go to town hall and have a 2/3 vote to change that. And then it has to go to a general election and it has to have a majority vote. So there's already a tremendous amount of checks and balances on that. But as a selectman, remember your biggest responsibility is financial. All right. So what you want to do there is you want to make sure that we keep our bond rating as low as possible. All right. So we can borrow long for our important projects, like for a house, you take out a mortgage for 30 years. And if you're financially sound, you can do that for very inexpensively. For maintenance, as you talked about, everyone knows, you know, then you have the cars. So then you have operational budgets set up that take care of those on the short term, and you keep separated short term and long term needs.
Okay, so another area of focus for you is providing greater access to natural resources. So give me an example of where greater access is needed.
Yeah, so greater access, I'll give you some great examples there. As I talked about, we have some of the largest amount of forested space versus any town in the state per size. We have, I think, 2,200 acres. So you can imagine going in there for the first time. You're probably not going to get lost, but that's a pretty big area, right? So one area that we could help increase access and utilization of our great spaces is something simple like trailhead maps, trail guides. All right, so that's the bike paths and the parking side. I mean the walking side. Then let's look at access to the beach. All right, so we've got phenomenal beach access, but they go through dunes and they get wide and they ruin the grasses, and that's what stabilizes our beaches so our seawalls don't fall over.
Right.
So investment in Moby mats increases access for people, protects the environment, and it also qualifies under the American Disability Act. So you'd be allowing people that may not be able to get to that beach now to get to the beach. We also did that at Peter Igo Park. Yep. And we now have an ADA compliant dock, so someone would be able to get down there and be able to kayak.
Great. So if elected, what's the one big thing you want to work on?
The one big thing that I want to work on if I get elected is I'd like to, as I said, increase the experience at Town Hall, get the town working for the people in regards to having the town government meet the needs of the citizens and making sure each department and commission within the town is congruent with what the vision of the citizens are. I touched on that earlier on goal setting.
So we're on the home stretch here. So we always try to end with some fun questions.
Yeah,
because we always get
I love fun questions.
On the show, it's usually some heavy topics at times.
I thought we were having fun before.
Good. I'm glad you were. So what's a Jim Kilcoyne fun fact?
Jim Kilcoyne fun fact. Anyone that knows me, I am a lifelong boater. I love boating. And the second boat I bought when I was 15, from shoveling driveways and cutting lawns, was a boat made down by Gerard Turkey Farm. I think everyone knows what Gerard Turkey Farm is. It was called Delano Boat Works. And Mr. Delano's skiffs were all over the whole South Shore. And I desperately wanted to have a little boat, so I bought that boat for $62. And it was my second boat that I bought. And recently, the Situate Historical Society asked me if I'd put my boat on loan there. So you can go over there and see the boat that
So you still have the boat?
I still have the boat. It's a
Wow.
1968. And a fun fact is Mr. Delano retired in '70 from making boats and went over to the Rockland Boston Whaler plant at that time. And he became the head carpenter in Boston Whalers.
That's pretty neat. So if we were to steal your phone, mobile device, what music would we find on it?
Oh, well, I think everyone's a product of the music that they grew up with. And so I would have to say the music I grew up with was rock. But as I've gotten older, I've also come to appreciate blues and jazz.
Okay. So if someone wants to find out more about you, where can they go?
So the best place to find out is two places. One is www.jimkilcoyne.com. That's the most comprehensive area. And then if you want to communicate more with me, then also you can go to Jim Kilcoyne for Select Board.
Excellent. And then last but certainly not least, why are you the best candidate for the position?
Well, I think there's a few things that separate me from my opponent. First of all, I'm a doer, not a complainer. I see a challenge, and in business you always taught if you see a challenge, you go after it, you solicit input, develop alternatives, and then you move forward and try to solve it. Second of all, as I said, I managed a $45 million business. So I have a tremendous amount of business skill sets. I know what a budget is. I know how to balance a budget. I have made budgets. I know how to live within a budget. That is a key role as a selectman. And last is, my 6 years volunteering on the Conservation Commission has allowed me to develop relationships with other departments within the town. So I already have solid working relationships with council, with the administrator, with other selectmen. You can name the different boards because the Concom interacts with almost everyone. So those relationships will make me ready to work for the town day one.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us today, and we want to wish you the best of luck come Election Day.
Vote May 1st. Thank you very much.
And that's all the time we have for Meet the Candidates. Until next time, make it a great day.